Hey everybody, good evening. This is Dr. Mark Arcuri coming to you again this evening from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Getting colder again, maybe some snow coming in, so I'm happy about that. Tonight, our topic as we move forward in our conversation of a recipe for living in 2019 is being who and what you are at any cost. For not being so will always cost you a lot more. And you may have your own stories about that, and if so, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Uh, but I certainly have my stories about my what's the word, straying from the path of authenticity and how much that's cost me and how it's just not worth it. Not worth it at all. But it's a super, super important topic on this recipe for living in 2019 journey because I don't think anything speaks to being authentic to yourself more than being who or what you are. Literally. So it's very, very important. And so I wanted to give a little bit of an idea tonight of some of the ways to know when you're not being authentic to yourself and some of the ways to know that you are being authentic to yourself. And what you'll find out is that they're pretty much the same things, but the opposite of each other. And so, a lot of us say that, well, we don't know who our authentic self is. And I say the same thing as well. I don't know fully who I am yet. I think to some degree it's a lifelong process, but also, everybody has kind of varying experience in that regard. And with all the deprogram or all the programming that we received when we were younger that deprogrammed us from our authentic self, it takes time to get back to that place of authenticity. And so it's very, very common and typical, probably is a better word, to say that we really don't know ourselves very well. But whether you know your authentic self or not, you can tell by what's going on around you and how you're feeling and your place in the world as to whether or not you're being authentic. And I want to share with you first 4 symptoms that I think are really good uh, ways to look at the your behaviors relative to your authenticity. Typically, most of us are going to have 1 or 2 of these that are going to be our kind of our dead ringers. That when they come up, we know that we're off our path. But there are 4 of them that I've come up with, and perhaps you have others. So let us know in the comments what they are. But the first one is when things just feel too hard. And if you remember back a few weeks ago, we talked about being in the flow. We talked about flow theory, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the guy's name who I can't say, developed flow theory and this idea that when our perceived ability to meet the stressors or meet the things that go on in our life are on target, then we're in a flow. We feel good. We feel good about the direction we're going, and we feel good about our ability to handle the things that come up along the way. When we're in that flow, we're being authentic to who we really are because we're very well suited for whatever it is that's going on. But when we're not in that flow, when things feel too hard, we feel like we don't have what we need to meet those challenges, that's one clue that we're not being authentic to ourselves. The second clue that I often think of is when things just don't feel right. So not so much about feeling too hard, but they just don't feel right. Got an airplane going by. Um, there's excuse me, some anxiety perhaps involved, and I don't mean. Csikszentmihalyi in his flow theory said that when we are out of the flow, we might feel a little bit anxious, but that could also be an indication that we just need to up our skills a little bit or reduce or change the situation that we're in a little bit so that we feel more competent in our ability to handle it. So we can tweak those things a little bit, either our situation, if we can tweak that, or we can work on getting some new skills to meet these challenges. But when things just don't feel right, the anxiety is more than that. It feels like, I, I, I can't meet these challenges and in some ways I don't want to, but it's not just a matter of tweaking things. And oftentimes it comes in this kind of this gut feeling that things are just not on track for me. And the gut is the second brain, and some research suggests that the ability of our gut to be intuitive is even greater than our brain to be intuitive. And people talk about a gut feeling, and it's very, very much intuition. And when that doesn't feel on in a situation, chances are you've strayed off your authentic path and you're into something that really is not the place for you to be. Maybe it's good for somebody else, but not for you. So the third clue could be that you just don't get satisfaction. So maybe you get through the situation, and however you do it, whether it's a job task or even being in a relationship, anything, you get through it, but it's just sort of anticlimactic. You get to the end, or you get to some place that you're in it for a while, and you're kind of reflecting on the results, and it just doesn't light you up. So if that's the case, you're probably not being authentic to yourself in that situation. And the fourth clue that I look at sometimes is that the cost-benefit ratio just doesn't add up. So what I mean by that is that you get to the end again, like you do when you're looking at your level of satisfaction, and it just seems like whatever it cost you to get there, whether it be in dollars, whether it be an emotional cost, other things, consequences, whatever, it just doesn't seem like it was worth it. And if that's the case, it's probably a good clue that whatever it was that you embarked on was not really an authentic part of who you are. So in my own case, and as I said, most of us have one or two of these that are our pet indicators, I guess, of being off our authentic path. Mine is the cost-benefit analysis. Just doesn't add up. With two of them. So the cost-benefit analysis and things are too hard. So I know when I'm in a situation and it just seems like I'm working so hard to make this fit and the peg doesn't fit into the hole kind of thing, that it's not worth it. It's just not worth what I'm putting into it. And if I push forward anyway and try to force it, it ends up costing me more than it was really worth. And a recent example, I have this injury on my arm, which I can't even find. It's kind of, you can sort of see it. Not so bad anymore. But anyway, I gave my cat a bath a couple weeks ago, and I gave her a bath. I typically take her to PetSmart once a month, and she loves getting her spa day. But I gave her a bath because she'd gotten sick, and she was kind of dirty, and, I couldn't get it done at PetSmart fast enough for me. The cat was fine, Lola. But so I decided to give her a bath, and she's an angel in the bath. I mean, she's a Maine Coon mix, loves the water. She just kind of looks at me like, are you seriously going to do this to me? But go ahead. So I got the bucket, bathtub, everything. But after the bath, I realized that she just wasn't quite clean enough. She was a little bit dirty in the back, and I wanted to clean that up. So I got her brush out and tried to brush it, and it was a little bit stuck. So it hurt. It hurt her. And I don't like to hurt her, but it did hurt her. She meowed a little bit, and I kept doing it, so she turned around and bit me. And it's my fault. I ended up with this rash that has been going on for a couple of weeks. It's very uncomfortable. So there's a cost right there, especially at night when I'm trying to sleep. And that's when our cytokines flare up. And the cytokines are very inflammatory in the body, but our natural course is they come out at night. And at the same time, our anti-inflammatory secretions, I can't think of the word, come out. And it's like this combination of a mess when you have a rash or something. It just starts itching and blah, 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 blah. So the cost was certainly much higher than just waiting a couple of days and taking her to PetSmart and getting her cleaned professionally, and me not having to deal with an arm that has been inflamed for a couple of weeks, and a few emails to my doctor cost me $100 and whatever. So it would have been cheaper to pay $45 to go to PetSmart. But I should have known that. I don't mind giving my cat a bath, but it's not, it's more luxurious to take her to PetSmart. She likes it, and it feels good to me to have her cleaned professionally and brushed out, and yet I have to do it myself, and that's not authentically me. I wanted the luxury, not the work. So you will have to decide for yourself, what is your indicator typically? Is it that things just get to be too hard, you're not in the flow? Do things just feel not quite right, or you have this gut idea, this instinct, this intuition that what you're doing is not the right thing to be doing? Do you get to the end and find out you just don't really have a good satisfaction from what you've accomplished? It's anticlimactic. Or is the cost-benefit ratio just way off and it wasn't worth what you had to put into it to get it done? So then how do you know if you're being authentic in a situation? And it's really the same list, as I said before, but it's the opposite. So how do you know if you're being authentic? I mean to say, it's the same list. So things are easy. You're in the flow. You feel like you're competent enough to meet the challenges that are in front of you, or with a little bit of tweaking, you can be more competent. You can up your skills a bit, or you can modify the situation a bit. But generally, things are pretty easy and they move along. And life really should be easy. I know many people think that life needs to be hard, but it doesn't need to be. That you feel good, or at least feel neutral, so you don't feel bad. But better yet, you feel good about what you're doing. That's a great indicator that you're being authentic to yourself because there's just a natural fit. The third one is that you feel exhilarated. So rather than feeling like it's an anticlimactic ending in a situation, you feel really good. You feel joy. You feel peace. You feel happiness. You feel like you've accomplished something worth accomplishing. Any of those feelings, when they're present, are a really good indicator that you're being authentic to yourself. And finally, the benefits, the cost-benefit analysis here, to yourself or to others, depending on what the task might be, it's benefiting you or other people to a degree that's far greater than whatever you had to put into it to get there. And you'll know when that's true. None of these things take any real contemplation or reflection too much. A little bit, you've got to be aware, but none of they're going to hit you over the head. You know, when things don't feel right, they hit you over the head. You know it, whether you want to admit it or not. And when things feel right, they hit you over the head because lots of times we don't admit it. And we need the universe to tell us that what we're doing is good. So make note this week. Think about some situations, whether in your personal life, in a relationship, or at work. What feels authentic and what doesn't? And whatever it is that feels authentic, jot them down. Because these are really good clues to who you really are. When something feels authentic, it means you're being authentic, or you have the opportunity to be authentic in relation to whatever that is. So jot it down on a piece of paper. It could be in a journal. It can be little snippets of paper that you put in a box. Sometimes I use index cards and I just have a pile of them, because then you're literally going to take those snippets or those cards or those things from your journal, and you're going to put them together as we move along into that puzzle that I call Paradise Rediscovered, rediscovering your authentic self that was sort of snatched away from you in those early years when all the well-meaning people in your life were telling you who you are, and you really weren't. So that's where we are. Questions, comments, put them in the comments below this. Facebook, YouTube, drmarkarcuri.com on the video archives page. And be sure to enter our February giveaway, which is for a signed copy of A Life Aligned, along with the never released yet A Life Aligned workbook. I'm going to give you both of those this month, and you can sign up anywhere on drmarkarcuri.com. Most pages have, all the pages, I should say, have signups, and also on Facebook on the left tab, you'll see a tab for that, and be sure and click there if you're on Facebook and sign up. And in addition to that, be sure and check out the free downloads page at drmarkarcuri.com. There are some things that were given away for you to support you on this journey. There's a book of positive aspects that you can use as a model to begin attaching to the positive in things. And there's, I can't even remember, but there are other things as well. The 8 Days to Authenticity handout that I put together, 15, 16 pages, but a 7-day process that culminates in an 8th day of putting the information together from the week prior for a really, really good glimpse of who you really are, that authentic self. So download those free downloads, get on our e-letter list, and see what else you can find. But if you don't find what you're looking for, certainly send us some comments and emails and whatever else, and we'll make sure to incorporate them into what we're doing. So thank you so much. We'll be here again next week, and the topic will be having good thoughts to live by. So that topic is going to be much more keyed into that whole idea of consciousness creates reality that we've talked about in prior weeks, but in a much more focused way of how you can take any situation and turn it into something that you truly, truly embrace as a blessing in your life. So thank you once again. Gratitude, love, appreciation, all that good stuff from Santa Fe, New Mexico this evening. We will see you next week. Good night.